Rite of Passage, the podcast with Giabra Martin.
Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the episode. We are here with Mr. Tony Azzi. Am I saying that right? Azzi? It's Azzi.
It's Lebanese originally, and I wouldn't expect anybody to say it the Lebanese way. It's Azzi in Lebanese, but everyone just says Azzi.
Azzi. Okay. Well, I like it. I like it. I have a French last name, so people get it wrong all the time. I'm kind of used to that. I'm like,
Oh, so it's Martin.
That's the author name. The real last name is Letelier, spelled like
Okay.
Letelier, and people, never had a grade school teacher get it right on the first try.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to out your real name, your government name. I don't know
Oh,
if
it's
that
all good. My government name.
Monsieur Letellier.
Monsieur, yeah, no, and Letelier is a beautiful name, but Letelier isn't quite as pretty. So,
Yeah. I know the feeling, man, because our daughter was born overseas, and we were trying to find names that would work, right?
yeah,
And so we were like, what about a name like Eugenia? And they're like, Eugenia? I was like, ah, man, I can't. What happens like when you anglicize a name? It just flips all of a sudden.
not as pretty in English. Yeah, no,
Right,
English
right.
is. I was actually thinking about this, like as writers, like English is it's a tough language to work with. It's not nearly as pretty as the, romantic languages, the Spanish and French and Italian. They're just so like just beautiful sounding, and then English is just like water.
Well, it's crazy because like it's a functional language, I've always thought, right?
Mm,
And I
mm,
think that's why like to turn it into the space of literature, I think that's why English books commercially enjoy success, right?
mm.
It's functional. Anybody can read it. Anybody can just like get the idea. But like, how many of us legitimately can read or write prose and like appreciate it? Like the
Mm.
Italians in the Renaissance can, right? Like sit there and
Right.
just like contemplate the meaning of this word in the sentence and what it truly means and the visualization. We're just like, all right, let's blast through these sentences. I read 17 books this month. Let's keep going, you
No,
know?
you're not wrong. There was like a golden era of literature, and like their command of the language was just, we've not been able to replicate that. Like you read some old, 1800s, 1700s, the old Shakespeare stuff. I mean, they're just like their writing was beautiful. Like their command of the language was beautiful.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Actually, my wife right now is watching a show on Netflix. She read the book. She's originally in North Jersey, but like Italian American,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And she read the book, The Leopard, which was like this Italian book about
Hmm.
the Bourbon dynasty, the fall of the Bourbon dynasty
Okay.
in Italy. But she'll like pause. And so anyway, the show's on Netflix now. It's in Italian. She'll pause it every now and then, and I'm reading it like in subtitles, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she'll be like, "Oh my God, just the way they delivered the sentence in Italian, you have to like." And I'm like, "I don't know. He just said we're all lions. That's what I read."
It's like it seems simple to me. Yeah. No, there's some of these perspectives. Like I think, for example, in French, like in English, we'll say, I miss you, and then I think in French it translates more like you're missing from me.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's so much more beautiful somehow. And I'm like,
Tu
I
me
don't know,
manques. Tu
just these little
manques.
shifts. Yeah,
Yeah, tu manques. That's
yeah,
in French. To, like you're missing from. Yeah, yeah.
right. It's like, but I don't know, it gives it like a different perspective on like what that actually means when we say it, kind of thing. And
Mhm.
sometimes these subtle shifts, I don't know, can make language more beautiful.
Yeah, it's actually it's really cool, man. Because I mean, I grew up, did part of my like born in Lebanon, and then moved to
Mm,
Canada, and then moved back to Lebanon, and then Canada and the
mm,
U.S. And what's cool about it is like you learn a language is a personality.
mm.
And my wife tends to point that out. She's like, your intonation, the way your eyes narrow, everything is different when you start speaking Arabic. Your voice
Interesting.
changes, right? It's like you're even more aggressive. It's like you just get more aggressive when you speak Arabic. And I'm
Well,
like, yeah,
sometimes you hear German and it's like it just sounds angry. Like, from
right,
like
yeah,
an American perspective, you're like, oh shit, he's pissed. He's like, no, he's just asking if you'd like, a beer or something.
right, right, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's the same way. Like she would be sitting around with the family, and she'd be like, "Is everything okay?" Because me and my brother, and my mom, we were just talking over each other, and she's like, "Are you guys
Yeah.
arguing?" No, we're just talking about our day. It's just an aggressive, guttural language. You know?
No, it's funny that that's like coming from your wife who's Italian. Like my wife is Sicilian, and I swear,
Mhm.
like I always think she's pissed. Like the hands start going. She's
Yeah,
in, like a great mood, but it sounds like yeah, like we're mad about the bread or whatever.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Her
that's
family's
it.
similar though. I remember meeting them for the first time, and
Yeah.
she was a little nervous because it's like nobody's having no. It's you know how like in those therapy sessions, there's the talking pillow, and like if you're holding the talking pillow, then you're the one who can talk. That's like the
Yeah.
Italians don't believe in that either, right?
No.
It's just everyone's just talking over each other. They're just lobbing. Me and you could be having a conversation, and then you and them can be having, and then her and him, and
Possibly.
yeah. And I'm so comfortable in that setting that I'm like, I'm so
Right.
glad she never met, like, I never married, like, like a London Elizabethan age,
Right.
candlelight dinners.
Very
Yeah.
proper, very conservative, like just
Couldn't do it,
I don't
man.
know. Yeah, everyone's very reserved, very guarded, right? And
Right.
a little too polite, a little too, I appreciate the honesty when people just like say it, but I imagine, the Italians probably have a little trouble with the Zoom though, with the normal conversational, because like Zoom will only let one person talk at a time. So you get like 5 Italians in a Zoom, and they're like,
Dude, that's an SNL skit waiting to happen. That's
no one
literally.
can hear anything.
I'm surprised, like, nobody on socials on like TikTok or anything be like, 5 Italians in a Zoom.
Just you get like half a word out of each, and just
How would go viral? That's like your next viral video right there.
It'll be fun. Maybe that'll take the podcast to the next level, make something like that. Hey, so
All you see is
before
just hands.
it's just all you hear, hands and just garbled words. Hey, before we get into your books, okay, so you're from Lebanon, then moved to Canada. How did your family end up in Canada?
It's a crazy story.
Yeah.
And okay, so my dad, credit goes to him
Mhm.
and actually it's a 50-50. There was an equal division of labor there. So Lebanon, I was born during the Civil War in Lebanon.
Mm.
And my dad was he's read a lot of history. He has a law degree, right? He's one of those like really learned men, okay?
Yeah.
And the writing was on the wall. He realized, you know what? I got to get my kids out of here. I got to take them to a country where they can have an opportunity.
Right.
And not only can they have an opportunity where they can experience, to him, pluralism and respect for civil society and responsible government and accountable government. Like that, to him, he always talked about that, right? Like you need to live in a place where everyone is held accountable, accountable governments, accountable citizens. So he had always been enamored with Canada.
Okay.
Okay, and we applied. It was like immigrant/refugees. We're still not sure what it was,
Right.
and because we were at the time in Lebanon internally displaced. We had our village home, and then we didn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So we were all living in the city at the time,
Right.
and so they had the appointment, okay, and the appointment actually wasn't in Lebanon because the consulate had been bombed. So the Canadian consulate had been bombed for security reasons. Canada just wasn't setting up a consulate there. It was in Syria, and you have to take like a I don't know 5-6 hour bus to get to Syria. And at the time, it wasn't safe for men to travel.
Oh.
So my mom went. My mom went on this bus by herself with limited English, and literally just like waited all day to speak to the consular, I guess. And yeah, if the story's too long, just stop me.
No. It's good.
Yeah,
It's
so
good.
she waited, and end of the day comes, and they said, like, I'm sorry, but we just don't have any time left. You're gonna have to come back tomorrow. And she said, I can't come back tomorrow. Like, this isn't, North America. We could just check into a hotel, and like
Right,
this is
be like,
all
I'm
money she
here,
has. Like, this is it. I
have
can't
to
go
sort it
anywhere.
out today, or
I'm stuck, or I'm sleeping under a bridge as a woman in the Middle East. That's not gonna end well, right?
No.
So she literally just walked in. She just opened the door and walked in, and the woman was interviewing 2 men, and she said, in whatever broken English she could, she said, "Please, I can't go back." And thankfully, whoever this woman was, and I don't know, and I'm sure there's a way to find out, But
Right.
I think the woman realized that there's this woman by herself, and she's got two. And she told her, "I have two kids, and my husband is in Lebanon, and we just I need you to interview you. I need you to do what it is that you do." And
Right.
so the woman asked her a couple of questions, took the file, stamped it, came back, and so when my mom came back early in the morning.
Yeah.
By the time the bus left, she just showed them the acceptance, and everyone was just absolutely shocked that we got accepted. And so, yeah, we went to Canada. We were some immigrant kids in Canada, and that was awesome, man. I absolutely love that country. I think I have a dual appreciation for Canada and the United States because I did my schooling in the U.S. as well, and I studied law
Yeah.
in the U.S. So I have like such an incredible appreciation for, and I know it's highly politicized these days. Like I get it.
It's getting wild out there, but
I
yeah.
get it. But just from like an experimental perspective, the experiment of America, I
Right.
still think it's, and I talk about it in my book, like just like indirectly, like it's a country that at least tried.
Yeah. No, God, I could have so many conversations on the subject. I feel like, well, first I'm kind of hung up on your mom here. So it sounds like she's, first of all, a very, very brave woman. Also someone who can make things happen, right? Like I'm not going to take no for an answer. Like I need to bend the rules of the universe to like get this done, and there's no other option, there's no other choice, and like I'm going to find a way. But she had the courage to even be on that bus by herself, and I imagine she's a pretty tough woman.
Yeah, she's a typical like Lebanese mother who would like we were talking about honesty, like how the Italians just like she's
Yeah.
just she'll meet you. She'll be on this podcast and be like in her thick Lebanese accent, be like, "Why are you wearing a hat? What is this? Well, what do you think I'm here for you to, like,
Good 20 pounds. What does that?
And that's exactly it. Like my wife is always like on edge when she meets my mom. She's like, "Oh God, I should have ate that. Like, I shouldn't have let. Like when you think your mom's gonna comment on the way this dress fits.
Yeah,
I'm
like
"Oh,
I'm
it's
everywhere.
fine. It's fine." But yeah, but it's funny because like a lot of Lebanese moms are like that, and I think to an extent, like me and my like Lebanese friends in Canada and the U.S. joke like I think that's why we're so thick-skinned because there's nothing you could say to us
Grow up like that. You're like,
that our
yeah.
parents haven't said already.
Oh,
Like there's those Instagram videos of like
right.
immigrant kids on report card day.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I come home with like good grades, and my mom or my dad, they'd see like 96 in English. Well, I don't understand. Where is the other four? Hiding? You speak the language.
Oh, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
Oh. So when you landed in Canada, where about was that?
It was in Ottawa.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I still love that city.
Yeah,
Still
yeah,
love that city. Like when we moved back to Canada in our adult years, we didn't
yeah,
move there. I always had a special connection. So it's really cool because like French and English are the languages, the operative languages there, and
right.
you don't necessarily have to speak both, but you should.
It'd
So
be a good thing to do. That's one thing where, the United States obviously is like so powerful that we've made English like the international business language. And I think part of the reason people love Americans when we travel, but they also kind of hate us. Like I think to some degree they like, okay, people are coming here for tourism, they're spending money. But when American people travel and they're like, hey, we don't speak a word of any other language and we expect everyone else to know English kind of thing. Yeah.
you know what's funny though is like we live in Spain now, and our kids go to a school where there are a few American parents among
Yeah.
other nationalities.
Yeah.
And I found because I also worked a bit in Dubai and Qatar,
Hmm.
and I found Americans abroad
Hmm.
are super conscious of how they are perceived, and they almost go to extra lengths. Because if you are willing to at least like if you're American, you're willing to move to Doha,
Yeah.
then you're also, I would assume, uh, conscious of how the world view. Like you follow events to an extent that you're conscious of how the world views you, how the rest of the
Yeah.
world views you, right? So they're extra polite, they're extra tolerant. They make the effort. They go to extra lengths. Now, this might be. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on your podcast. I'll tell you who isn't of like the Anglo-Saxon cousins.
Okay.
The Brits. I love them. I
Really?
got friends, but I don't think
Yeah.
they got the memo that like the sun hasn't set over the British Empire yet.
Yeah,
And
like
so
the
they just like
Eastern
show up and they're
trade.
like, I don't understand. Former colonial subjects, do this to me. Do this for me, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, like that was my perception. And these are general. Like,
General, there's no, you can't make any universals about human beings, but I would, I would appreciate like Americans traveling around and having, like, if you're going to go to Italy, try to learn a few words while you're there, right? Like wherever you're going to go, try to learn a little bit about the culture, try to learn a little bit about the people, and any genuine curiosity is appreciated, right? Like my wife's grandfather who passed away recently, he had a thing that was interesting people are interested,
that's
which is
cool.
like, curious people are interesting. They know a lot of things. Like, be willing to ask that question, pick people's brains, even like your server at the local restaurant, like ask them who they are, ask them about their life. And he was that guy. Like he would stop people in conversations all the time. But, when he passed away, I mean, he had so much information. Like he just knew so many things because he was interested to find out, and genuinely interested in people. And it was, I know that kind of perspective when Americans travel, it represents the United States a lot better than maybe like, I don't want to say the cruise ship culture or something, but like those people who traveling
Yeah, I
and
got
like,
you.
we're
Yeah.
Americans, everyone has to come our way, and or the Brits doing that, like, hey, we're the British Empire, you come our way. We don't need to know anything about you. You gotta, meet us where we're at, kind of thing.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you'd agree, but what do you think about like maybe the reason why, like at least the Americans who travel,
Hmm.
America, this is gonna be controversial, but like America doesn't have a colonial past. It never like really kind of spread its colonial wings, right?
Maybe
So
economically, but not as much with like and military bases, but less with like, you know,
political former
yeah,
subject,
it didn't look like the way that the Brits did it, but
right? Or the
yeah,
French, Portuguese,
right.
Spanish, Dutch.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I wonder if that like seeps into the consciousness when they're abroad. I, I don't know, but I will say though is that like despite how great they are, I have a one person fantasy in European fantasy in mind in my own
Okay.
world. That, like I want to be the only like American speaking Canadian American whatever in Europe, and so if I'm walking and I'll just like see somebody ahead of me and they'd be like, "Yeah, I don't even go to the office anymore. I work remotely." I'm like, "Ah, get out of my! Like, I'm the only
There can't be two. There can't be two of
one."
us.
You're ruining
Oh,
this, like, you're like, you're sitting at a beautiful restaurant. There's like this
right.
music playing, the scents, the sun is setting, there's like beautiful architecture, and you just hear some Americans. You're like, that's not why I came here.
You're like, oh. No, I totally know what you mean, though. Yeah, you're like this lovely scene, and then you hear like some English. You're like, oh god, it's
You
two of
realize
us.
like you're that guy ruining someone else's experience too.
Oh shit, that's
Yeah,
pretty funny. Oh
yeah.
god, I gotta travel more. It's so expensive, but I imagine someday, if we're lucky, right, we're gonna be in heaven, and then we're gonna be talking to people who lived a couple hundred years ago, and we're gonna be explaining airplanes. They're gonna be like, so let me get this straight. You could have gone anywhere in the world in a day, but you stayed home. And you're like, well, it was expensive. And they'll tell you, like, I died walking somewhere.
We,
Yeah.
my 17 brothers died of polio. Like, what do
Yeah,
you?
right. Like, listen, I didn't have clean water. Like, right. Like you had everything and did nothing, and we had nothing and did everything. And then you try to explain that, you're like, I
Right,
think you made the point. Yeah, we didn't do everything we could, right?
right. Yeah, yeah. When they tell you like, my village was ransacked by pillagers.
Right.
What do you tell them? Like, ugh, poverty's a choice. I don't understand.
It's like by pillagers be like, oh, my HOA was
Yeah, I totally get it,
there's
right?
one time, the pool needed to be fixed, or whatever. Like
Because
just
I get it,
stuff like that.
It's just like they picked hydrangeas and they weren't, they were seasonal and they die in 6 months of the year. These flowers were dead and
Oh God, imagine explaining a grocery store to like, like I don't know. I mean, some people who yeah lived previously. I mean, they were tough as hell, and I don't
dude,
know.
forget that. Like now it's different. Like even if you come from another part of the world that's
Mhm.
experienced conflict,
Yeah,
everybody's got a smartphone. Everybody knows how the other's living, right?
right.
Like if you rewind it 30 years ago, 1990s when we came,
Yeah,
most shocking thing to me in Canada. It was like the same as the US.
Yeah.
This family took us in, this Lebanese family took us in for a couple of days until we
Nice.
secured a place to stay.
Yeah.
And we lived in we secured a one-bedroom apartment for me, my brother, my mom, and dad. And my brother and I thought it was the coolest thing that we slept on a fold-out couch. It was the best. But I remember this, like the kid of this Lebanese, like he was, second generation Lebanese at that point, this kid.
Mhm.
I don't know, he might have been a little older, 8, 9 years old, right?
Yeah.
I remember he opened the door to a large closet. I'd call it a den. And he said, "Do you guys want to see my toy room?" Okay. And my brother looked at me and whispered, "Kids in Canada have a room for their toys." And I was like, "What is this place? Hot water and toy rooms."
You're gonna like literally reserve a room in the house for you're like, holy, yeah, that would be such a weird concept. You're like, what the hell?
Endless hot water and toy rooms were just like the most mind-blowing thing
Right, you're like, whoa, what is this place?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so tricky. Okay, there's this guy named Sadhguru. He's like, I think I don't want to say he's Indian. He could be Pakistani, and I should know that. But he like teaches. He's a very, very wise guy. He kind of like, teaches people and does these YouTube videos, whatever. But he's got this one saying that stuck with me is like a man with an empty stomach has one problem and a man with a full stomach has 100 problems. And that has like stuck with me. Like, I don't think we fully appreciate, like just how luxurious. And part of it is, like if everyone in a community is poor, it kind of doesn't bother anyone because it's like, okay, we're all kind of in the same boat. But like sometimes being in your position and then having to see people with tremendous wealth is like very hard. You feel like you're falling short, you're making this, whatever it is like you're looking at these beautiful cars and you don't, but I don't know. I don't think we fully appreciate in the Western Hemisphere, like.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, man. When you live in an immigrant community, everyone else is poor. Like, like nobody's.
Everyone's trying to figure it out.
Everyone's trying to figure it out. So you don't have this sense of insecurity as you would if you were at a private school and you for some reason were super brilliant and had like, got a scholarship or financial aid to go there, and now you're amongst middle income, upper income families. Like you're there like this is your normal, and as an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, you don't know any better. So and you're happy. That you truly are happy, which I still tell people like we were happy. We were kids. We did stuff that kids did. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's like you were talking about the pull-out bed or pull-out couch, and like you and your brother are like, "Oh, this is sick," and your parents are probably like, "Oh my God, what have we done to our kids?" And you guys are like, "This is the greatest."
Yeah. Well, actually, my parents were like, "This is a lot better than." Okay. But it's funny because like I know bullying is a big thing now, anti-bullying campaigns. But there's this study that came out and showed that like kids who go to predominantly immigrant schools don't experience bullying to the same extent as kids who go to middle income and upper income schools.
Interesting.
And the conclusion was, you can agree with it or not, was that there's this like sense of camaraderie and solidarity, and we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And like compassion in these kind of predominantly immigrant schools.
There's something to. It's complicated, right? But there's like something to this whole like we either have an internal enemy or external enemy. And it's like after 9/11, like America was like one country. And we're like, you started seeing American flags flying, and it's like, okay, we got an enemy over there. And then like the moment things calm down, you go back to like the bullying and like, oh, Republicans, Democrats, and like Christians, non-Christian. I mean, it's like we got to fight somebody. And it's either we're all in this together right here, and the problem is out there, and we're all facing it together, or you're the problem, you're my problem, I'm your problem, and we're, you know what I mean? Like human beings are, I mean, it's all like kind of made up, right? Like it's all in our heads, like, but we act as if this is all like so real, and we play it out like that.
You're right, man. We define. I think I have this quote in one of the books, one of the novels, Insurrection or Origins, where it's like we define ourselves by that which we are not. We're always looking for definition. Like we're always, it's hard for as a collective, right, to say like, we're kind people. Well, no, we're kind people because our neighbors are unkind. We're civilized because they're barbarians. We're
Mm,
free because they're oppressed. And
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
all comparisons or something like they're all like relative to someone else's conditions or something.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I found that I remember I found that when I was in I did my undergrad in Canada. I took a sociology 101 class, and it just like it clicked
Mm,
at that moment because we were talking about Canadian identity,
mm,
and it was one of those like seminar class discussions, and the common theme was, well, we're not American, and not
okay.
that there's anything against Americans, but we're not American,
Right.
right? And it's like, well, we believe in multilateralism and peacekeeping, and the Americans believe in it. It's like, well, okay, we don't need to juxtapose,
Yeah,
right?
everything doesn't have to be in the
But it's
context of
instinctive.
a different
I mean,
group.
I do it. I think everyone does it, right?
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah,
I'm trying to
'cause
explain to my daughter, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't hang out with I don't know, these kids because they're getting into trouble and doing a lot of bad things. I don't
yeah.
know how to explain it to her in a way that I'm not in one way or another. Like the messaging isn't like you're not that kind of child. You're
Right.
not the
Like
kind of kid who's gonna bully someone or call them
they're
names.
worse than you are or something. Like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. That's the problem with, and honestly, there's a bigger discussion, and we will get into your book shortly here. But the whole Peter Pan story is like, you know, it's like when you give a definition to something, you're saying what it is, but you're also saying everything that it isn't simultaneously. And the
Mm.
whole like Peter Pan thing is like, okay, like kids are magic because they could be anything, and then this guy refuses to grow up, and then at a certain point, it's like, dude, you're in your 30s, like you should probably grow up and be something, dude. It's like not cool anymore. But it's like everything, like giving a word to anything is also excluding all the other words, right? Like everything is kind of relative to everything else, but I don't know, how do you avoid that trap, right? Is kind of a much deeper philosophical question. Like, how do you put something in perspective without the perspective of everything around it or opposite of it or that's different than it or something?
Right. Now the only thing that I can think of now is like Peter Pan is Will Ferrell yelling meatloaf to his mom.
I mean, yeah, it's like, it's like okay when you're 14, like maybe, but then at a certain point, you're like, dude, it's not cute anymore. Like, you
Right.
should probably be something because,
Buy,
like,
buy some new pants,
right, let the cement quit stirring it, let it solidify into
like
something.
these green pants that just fall below your knees. Maybe it's time.
Not
If
a
I'm
good look.
it's-
Oh,
when your shoes
all
are
right.
out of
So
style, like
moving into your books, Tony. So you've got two books out right now. Are they part of the same series? I see Origins and Insurrection, and are they this book one and two of the same series?
yeah. So it's a trilogy.
Okay,
Uh, yeah. So it's Origins, Insurrection, and Exodus is the third that I'm currently working on.
nice, nice. Tell me about Origins. Let's just get into it.
Yeah, so it's really okay. So Origin started, funny enough, as as a story I told the kids, uh,
Okay,
bedtime story, and I just started to create this world. And
okay,
I mean, this isn't a kid's story, right? This isn't a young children's story, but it was just like they wanted to hear about superheroes and superpowers and magical worlds, and whatever. So I
yeah.
just started telling them about this character, and how she's half Lebanese but half something else from another world, and because my kids are half Lebanese, so
It's
and
like
then
you kind of relate to them, like the superheroes a
yeah,
lot,
and then she like
similar
she
position. Yeah,
has she's got royal bloodline, and then she didn't know
yeah.
it. So hey, you guys could be royal too. You don't know it.
We don't know it. Yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah. So that's how it started. And then
Okay.
night after night, this story continued to just expand and this world continued to expand. And I started like making notes after I tell them the story because I forgot like I would forget where I was in the story or what world I was or the names or whatever. So I just like put them to sleep, put the lights out, and be like, okay,
What
now
the hell did I just tell them?
what was this character's name again? Just so I'm not, repeating the story again. So
Yeah.
that's how it started. And then at the time, I, I, so I was a lawyer, but I wasn't practicing. I was, doing my thing in real estate,
Yeah.
and I thought like, I'm getting zero satisfaction from this. I really am. Like it, right? As somebody who's
Yeah.
in the literature world, is like you want there's something truly gratifying about being able to read and tell stories. Storytelling
And
is
just
just
make
so
stuff. I just want to make things, man. Yeah.
right. It's so intrinsic. Story. It's like one of the oldest human practices. Storytelling.
Yeah.
We were carving, paintings on caves to tell stories.
Well, all of it is like, hey, there's a thing we know today, and it'd be cool if people tomorrow could understand what we just found
Right,
out.
man. It built
And we're just
empires,
compelled to do that.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
storytelling literally built Rome. Like Romulus and
For sure. Yeah. The wolf
yeah,
and Remus and Romulus. Yeah.
Remus and Romulus. Like it's wild. So the power of
Yeah.
storytelling. And I thought it was really cool that it like captivated the kids. And I told my wife, who's a romance author, actually, she's quite a prolific romance author. She's done about
Nice.
35 books. I said, Gina,
Awesome.
like I'd love to be able to kind of flesh this out and write the story and be able to write it in a way that is not just a story, but kind of reflects a little bit of my experience and include a little bit of the political messaging. Because I think one of the coolest things about writing a story is that
Mhm.
you can really and it's really lamentable that certain authors are getting grilled for this, but really
Mhm.
through your characters you can convey unpopular opinions.
Mm.
As long as they're not the dominant opinion, but like a character can say something and another character can shoot it down and you can have this discussion.
Right.
Through
Have this debate
characters.
that we're not having elsewhere or something.
Right, exactly. I can't go on social media and just like say some of the things that a character could say. Like I can't get away with it, right?
No. No.
So really, the essence of the story is there's this girl and she's 17 years old and she overhears her parents talking about she has to wear a pendant to stay safe and she's thinking, what is going on? And her birthday's coming up in a week. And through a series of events, she discovers that she thought she was half Lebanese, half American. She discovers she's half Lebanese, half a race called the Senazi race. It's not Snazzy, but Senazi race from
Okay.
a world called Unitas. And Unitas was governed under a republic, and it was fair, and there was these loose federations that it governed as well.
Okay.
And at some point, the republic was overthrown by the first rank. And these guys are bad people, and there's a chancellor, and it imposes this fascist regime. Now,
Right.
at first glance, it's a typical good guy, bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Column A, column B. But what I really wanted to press in the story, and keep in mind, this girl's 17, and let me go back to her for a minute.
Yeah.
She it's a found family with 4 others, so there are 5 of them, and
Okay.
one is her best friend who's Dominican. My best friend growing up in Canada was Dominican.
Nice.
Another is Chinese, but they're all first, second generation Americans. Another is American, but really he's from another world. Another is from another world as well, but she's kind of sought refuge here. And the only way to travel between these 2 worlds is through something called the Empress Walk. And the Empress Walk is the only way to open it is through a sacrifice. And that's just like a little subtle messaging to, immigrants washing up on boats, basically, kind of parents sacrificing themselves to get their kids to another world to seek refuge. But it's not heavy in that sense. There's a lot of, because I learned English reading Marvel and watching SNL and just being enamored with comedy. So there's a lot of loose banter that I didn't want the messaging or the theme, the tone of the story to be serious. Like I hated the woe is me immigrant stories, right? I never liked those because I always thought we lived a beautiful life and a great experience, and we laughed and we joked and it was great and we all made something of ourselves. So for me, it's super light. There's a lot of banter, there's a lot of comedic moments, and there's a lot of truth, a lot of honesty in their conversations. There's a part in the book. And if you don't read the whole book, I would just encourage you to read just this section, and I can send it to you. It's a conversation that they had in class about race in America, right?
Okay.
And just the brutal honesty that the immigrants are discussing this with each other, right? Where it's like, damn, I can't make a video about this, but you got these kids, and they were everyone I knew growing up, including myself, just having a super blatant conversation about it. And it's not to criticize America and it's not to exalt America. It's just, it is what it is. And let's just talk about it.
Right. I would for sure read that. Yeah, if you send it to me, I would for
I was
sure
like, do
check.
I keep this? Why not? I'm like, fuck it, let's just go. Let's just keep it in. But yeah, so, and then like through a series of events, no spoilers, but book two, she's in this fascist world and she quickly comes to discover, like bit by bit, that like even the Republic wasn't perfect,
Right.
which is romanticizing of the past, which is like, and it was drawn, it's drawn a little bit on what's happening in America. It's like, okay, you know, uh, yes, we tend to think that
Like the founding fathers were
liberty
perfect
and
and, like,
justice, yeah,
yeah,
liberty, and but like fascism doesn't arise out of a vacuum. It doesn't come from
right.
nowhere. These people were beleaguered, and like that turned into frustration, and that frustration turned to aggression because you people were holding your parties and your events, right? And you were too obsessed with principles of liberty and justice, while these people went hungry. It's one thing to talk about it, but these
Yeah.
people
There's
yeah,
a vulnerability that gets exploited or something when like fascism or communism, like it starts with some vulnerability, some suffering, some need that's not being met that is like nagging at people and it goes ignored and then these kind of extreme positions emerge from that.
right. And so what I wanted the reader to think was like, at some point, I mean, deep down, they know that that fascist system is bad. But at some point, when the chancellor is trying to defend it, I want the reader to just have that one quick moment where they think,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Well, I mean, seeing it from his perspective, I can see
No.
why. No, 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 no. That's bad. That's bad. Just to have that
Um,
little moment where it's like, wait,
yeah.
wait a minute. That's like, and so I think you can only do that through a story, not necessarily through retelling of history all the time, right? Like if you,
No, great fiction can do that. Like it convey challenging ideas and make a reader. Hey, so I know Zoom is going to kick us out somewhere within the next 30 seconds. So in case we get booted suddenly, for anyone listening, I'm going to put all of Tony's links in the description here, book links, social media, connect with him. He's in Spain right now, which is damn cool. I want to do another show. I got to get out to Spain because it's a place I've always
come on
looked at.
down, man. You let me know. We're in Valencia. We're in
Oh,
Valencia, Spain. Honestly, love to have you here.
God, that's my wife. I
Spare
mean, that would
bedroom.
be like,
We just set up today. We need
oh,
to.